Welcome to the Mindful Fire Podcast, a show about crafting a life you love and making work optional, using the tools of mindfulness, envisioning, and financial independence. I'm your host, Adam Cuello, and I'm so glad you're here. Each episode of the Mindful Fire Podcast explores these three tools through teachings, guided meditations, and inspiring interviews with people actually living them to craft a life they love. At its core, Mindful Fire is about creating more awareness and choice in your life. Mindfulness helps you develop self-awareness to know yourself better and what's most important to you by practicing a kind, curious awareness. Envisioning is all about choosing to think big about your life and putting the power of your predicting brain to work to create the life you dream of. And financial independence brings awareness and choice to your financial life, empowering you to make your vision a reality by getting your money sorted out and ultimately making work optional. And here's the best part. You don't have to wait until you reach financial independence to live out your vision. Mindful Fire is about using these tools to craft that life now on the path to financial independence and beyond. If you're ready to start your Mindful Fire journey, go to mindfulfire.org/start and download my free envisioning guide. In just 10 minutes, this guide will help you craft a clear and inspiring vision for your life. Again, you can download it for free at mindfulfire.org/start. Let's jump into today's episode. Jillian, welcome to the Mindful Fire Podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to dive into all things mini retirements today. I know you have a book coming out next week, and we're super excited to have you to talk about all things mini retirements.
I am excited too. Yeah, thanks.
So let's start by having you share a little bit with the audience about who you are, your journey, and what you're up to in the world.
Yeah, my financial journey kind of started when I was maybe 19. My spouse at the time and I got together and we had $55,000 of debt and we weren't going to high earning careers. Paying off that debt became a huge priority and I'd always been interested in just the idea of like creating more financial freedom. From a young age, I was like, oh, money gives you choices and money gives you options, and I desperately wanted more choices and more options. So we just started kind of saving half of our income. First went to debt pay down, and I never thought that we could retire early. Like that seemed like crazy talk. So I started thinking about, could we retire often? Could we take these mini retirements, these sabbaticals? And it was a conversation we had that first year of marriage, like at 19, and we just started building them into our lives. And along the way, we got to do a lot of cool things. I got to travel to 27 countries. We adopted 4 kids. We had 2 bio kids. Like we invested in real estate. I actually did end up becoming financially independent at 32. And now I'm 42. So I've been doing this 10 years. But I've taken a dozen mini retirements along the way, and they've just massively changed the trajectory of my life.
Wow. A dozen mini retirements. That is quite a lot. And, how often were you taking these?
The first, I would say 5 years, not a lot. Like we were still paying off our debt. We were still starting to invest, starting to build an emergency fund. And then I always tell people there's like 3 ways to take a mini retirement. You can negotiate it off from your employer, usually 1 to 3 months. You can take a gap in between jobs. That's perfect for slightly longer ones, like that 3 to 12 months. Or something bad happens typically, and you don't have to go to work for whatever reason. At first, they were more, you could have kind of planned ones that you plan in advance, or kind of spontaneous ones where life pivots and you have opportunities. So we definitely started with more spontaneous ones. And something I encourage people to do is kind of create like a mini retirement go bag, in that you have some plans, you have a couple, like maybe 4 or 5 1-month plans, you have some money set aside. And then if an opportunity happens to arise, you're able to pivot and say, hey, let's pull out one of those plans and let's go do the thing.
Got it. Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's always good to have a sense of what you would do if
Yes.
XYZ happened.
Hmm.
And, I worked in the tech industry for so long and layoffs are everywhere.
Yeah.
AI, all blah, 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 all that stuff. Like, who knows what's going to happen? So you might find yourself with 3 to 6 months off. And
Hmm.
certainly it would help if you have the financial bandwidth and runway to do that. That's, kind of why
Hmm.
financial independence and financial resilience are so important. But equally important is you have this break, use it. How do you want to use it? And start thinking about that. Let's take a step back before we dive into all the things and just define what your definition for mini retirement is.
Yeah, I feel like they include three elements. And if you get all three of these, it's a solid mini retirement. So the first one is that it's a month or longer. I feel like a month is kind of the minimum effective dose. So it could be 4 weeks, it could be 2 years, but a month or longer. The second one is stepping away from your primary career, from kind of your 9 to 5. So a lot of people do use it almost like vacation mode, which is awesome. But some people use it in other ways. They volunteer, they maybe are looking at a career pivot, starting a side hustle, like doing certifications or training. So it doesn't have to just be like a cool, epic trip or travel. There's lots of different ways to use it, but stepping away from your primary career. And then the third one is to focus on something meaningful, something that matters to you. So it does make it different than like, hey, I got laid off and I was super depressed. And so I sat around and watched Netflix for an entire month while I bemoaned, my circumstances, which is why a mini retirement go big can be helpful because it can help you pivot, but focusing on something that matters to you.
Yeah. I love that. Those super, super clear, really easy to understand. And you can kind of see, am I doing these things? Is there a difference between a mini retirement and a sabbatical?
I think whatever word resonates with you, there's so many different ways to describe it. A gap year, a sabbatical, a mini retirement, a career break, a hiatus. And I think they all have slightly different connotations. So whichever one resonates with you. I usually say mini retirement because that's how I'm viewing it. I'm practicing this little tiny retirement, but I took one a couple years ago. And in my head, I thought of it as a hiatus because I was stepping away from my business, but I knew I was coming back to the exact same thing. So it felt more like I was just hitting pause on it for a period of time. So whichever word you like, I think is awesome.
Right. It's really about having those three elements.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. So a month or longer, stepping away
Hmm.
from your primary work.
Hmm.
And the third one was focusing on something that's meaningful.
Yeah.
Perfect. I imagine there are a lot of reasons why people should
Yeah.
take them. But if somebody is thinking about it but hesitant, what
Hmm.
would you say to get them over the hump that you really should take a mini retirement?
In the book, I go through kind of the top 10 reasons why most people take a mini retirement. And it's often burnout is a huge one right now. Like a lot of people are just tired. Time with people they love is a huge motivation, partly because we know that things change, life changes, people change. Our parents, maybe they can hike through Ireland now, but maybe if we wait 10 years, they won't be able to. Our kids are in elementary school and they love being with us all the time, and that's awesome. But maybe in 5 years, like that vibe will be a little different, and they'll be more wrapped up in their own friends and their own hobbies. And so I think time with people we love is a huge one. A lot of people want extended travel, things that you can't fit into nights and weekends. There's just a bunch of things you can't do over a 4 day weekend. You're not going to hike the Camino over a 4 day weekend. If you have these bigger goals that take more time, or especially with like slow travel, you just want a different vibe. You don't want to be exhausted from your vacation. You want to settle in someplace and feel the rhythm and feel like, I don't know, just the vibe of a place and kind of relax into it. It's a very different travel experience. And I would say, like, specifically in kind of the FI community, a lot of people use it as practice for early retirement. It's a way to stress test and kind of get your bearings and work out the kinks of if I'm going to retire at 35 or 45 or 50, what's that going to be like? and being able to, one, practice it, but also get a little preview, get a little taste, like get up your motivation and your excitement about what's to come.
Yeah. I really love this idea of practicing early retirement with mini retirements.
Yeah.
And, I have actually taken a few mini retirements. I don't know if I mean, I did think about them in that way.
Yeah.
Initially, it was like, I need a break. Burnout.
Yes.
Both
Yeah.
of them were related to burnout,
Yeah.
surprisingly, or not surprisingly. But the first one was in 2022, where I took a sabbatical. It was, I had mentioned to you, I'm all about envisioning. Anyone who's listened to this podcast knows I'm a huge fan of envisioning. And for me, that starts with thinking big about what I want for my life and for whatever time period I'm envisioning for. And I had super burnt out. I was basically, I don't know, at that point, I was working for like 11 years straight. I had taken time off for my son when he was born. That's not exactly a break, but it is a break from work. But I was like, I've been doing this for so long, I need a break. And so I envisioned, I want to take a paid sabbatical. At my company, where I worked for my whole career, Google, they do not offer unpaid sabbaticals or any type of sabbatical.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, I want to take a paid sabbatical. And one thing led to another, and I took a fully paid sabbatical.
Nice.
In reality, it was a bit of carer's leave during COVID, at the end of COVID, before they removed that benefit, and also like 5 weeks of vacation. But the effect was I was off for 3 months. And for that first quote unquote mini retirement, I had 3 words of intention: rest, play, and connect. And that is it. Like, for once, I actually set aside all of the pursuits and side hustles and podcast. Like, I literally didn't even record. Maybe I recorded like 1 or 2 episodes during that, but I wasn't putting out new episodes. I was just relaxing. The second one was also related to burnout. And in that time, that was last year, I used it very much as a practice for early retirement. And in that time, I went into essentially what my vision is and what I'm now living is being an entrepreneur, but doing it in my own time, in my own way, without needing to force it and push and just like stress out over putting food on the table, because I already have the financial situation sorted out. That's the vision. And so in this mini retirement, I actually tried that on. And that was amazing. Importantly, I think, to your point, like, we need to actually try these things before we just jump into them, because there are going to be things that we don't expect. And when I took this mini retirement where I was really, really burnt out, I had a horrible boss who was more or less attacking me. And I essentially, I went on mini retirement, and the next week I essentially replaced her with myself. Like, I just went into gotta do it mode. This gotta go. Like, just brought all of that stressful energy right into my relaxing, like doing it in my own time in my own way. That wasn't happening. So it took me about a week to realize, like, I'm making myself miserable here. And then honestly, it took the full 3 months to really settle into like my own rhythm. And during that time, I was selling my first group coaching program. And there were days where I was like forcing. There were days where I was more allowing and just kind of doing what I could, appreciating the progress. And so I really got a good sense of it. Unfortunately, that time ended and I went back to an even more stressful situation. Still was very helpful in getting a taste for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 things actually that made me think of. One, especially in the FI community, with people thinking about early retirement, is I kind of compare it to running a marathon. Like, it's you're setting out for this really ambitious kind of long-term thing. And sometimes when I talk to them about mini retirements, I'm like, so have you thought about like taking mini retirement kind of practice? And they're like, oh, no. No, it's actually early retirement's going to be great. I don't need any practice. I'm going to be awesome at it first time around.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like if someone said, yeah, I'm going to run a marathon. And I'm like, well, so have you like done a 5K or something? And they're like, no, no, no. I don't need any practice. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about running marathons, actually. I've read a couple
Right.
books about running marathons. So I'm just going to sit at my desk for like 60 hours a week for the next 5 years. And then I'm going to run a marathon. And honestly, I think I'm going to be awesome at it. Like, I think it's going to go real good. And I'm like, huh, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Or you could practice and work out some of the kinks. But it is an interesting phenomenon that there's this compulsion, like, no, I don't want to do a 5K because what if I have to run the marathon 3 months later then? Like, I need to run that marathon as soon as possible. At the cost of practicing for it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Um,
Yeah.
and I've seen it not like early retirement can be amazing in that I think happiness is one part reducing suffering and one part adding joy. And if your job is creating a lot of suffering and you leave it, life is like 50% better, just out of the gate. And that's awesome. But if you haven't practiced the adding joy part and you don't 100% know how to do that because we've just never had an opportunity. You've had nights and weekends. You've had 2 weeks of vacation, you haven't had 3 months or a year. Like, how do you fill a year in a meaningful and enjoyable way is a little bit of a learning curve.
Absolutely. Having early retired towards the end of last year, I'm 9 months in and I'm
Yeah.
still figuring it out. And I have a clear idea of what I want. I
Yep.
have a clear vision. I've practiced it and I'm
Mhm.
still struggling to fully relax into this new chapter
Mhm.
because we have a lifetime of practicing the other thing, right?
Yeah.
For me and many people, I have a lifetime of just go, 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 always doing more, taking on more,
Yep.
and just this feeling of like never enough. And moving into early retirement, it is really a practice of embracing enough and slowing down. It makes all the sense in the world to actually do that and actually practice it before you get there. And with my group coaching and all of the things that I teach, I am all about figure out what you want and
Mhm.
start practicing it now. And a mini retirement is a great way to fully try it on rather
Yeah.
than just, as you said, in nights and weekends and in your day to day. I think both are important, but having that space to really settle in is
Mhm.
so important.
The other thing I was going to mention, one tool that can be helpful, you talked about during your second mini retirement where you kind of brought that like urgent energy. That's really common. Like, whatever that entrenched pattern is, of course, we're going to carry that forward because that pattern honestly was so useful for us. Like, we survive demanding lives by rushing. Like, that's how we get stuff done. Like, we rush to get up in the morning, we rush to get ready, we rush to get the kids ready, we rush to get out of the house, like, we rush to drop them off. We rush through our meetings, we rush through lunch, we rush through the afternoon, we rush to get home, we rush to get dinner on the table, we rush to get bedtime done and baths. And we get all of this done by rushing through it. And that pattern becomes so strong that it's tough to develop this whole new pattern. And so, one of the tools I have people practice before their mini retirement, if possible, but especially the first week or two of their mini retirement, this habit of unrushing, taking a task that you normally rush through, whether it's like getting breakfast made and eating, and just do it really slow. Do it really restfully, do it very present. And every time you feel that like you're trying to gain momentum on it, just take a deep breath and reset and try doing it in this relaxed way. And it's amazing. Like, and I encourage people just start with one thing. Like, don't try to unrush your whole day, but just take one daily task that you do, whether it's taking a shower or getting ready in the morning or eating breakfast or the way that you leave the office, like, and just do it in this really slow, relaxed way, this really calm, enjoyable, I'm appreciating this moment way. And as you start to build that habit, you can kind of expand it to other activities in your life.
Yeah. I love that. It's funny you mentioned that because one thing that I encourage people to do when they're envisioning the life they want to live
Mhm.
is, what do you want to feel?
Yeah.
And what I want to feel is unrushed.
Mhm.
Literally,
Yep.
that word is what always comes up, because when I'm rushing, I'm stressed. When I'm
Yeah.
rushing, I'm less kind,
Yeah.
with my kids, with my wife, with myself. And so I love that. Just take an activity you normally do and just do it in an unrushed, easeful fashion.
Yeah.
That I love that. That's great. I'm going to try that. Breakfast is a great one because I'm not rushing, but I'm rushing my kids, which means that
Yes.
we're all rushing and we're all stressed. And you know why?
Yep.
Doesn't have to. I mean, there's a reality of having to get him on the bus, but
Yep.
today's the last day of school, so
And
tomorrow,
summer is a perfect time to practice that
yes.
unrushing.
Exactly. There's really no reason to rush most of the time, but it'd be nice to let go of that for a little bit. All right. So, Jillian, I am totally in agreement with you that a mini retirement is a great way to try on or practice early retirement. But I know people listening are thinking, yeah, that sounds great, but I want to reach early retirement as fast as possible.
Yep.
Won't taking time off from work and earning money slow me down?
Mhm.
I'm sure you've heard that before. What
Yeah.
do you generally say to people when they ask that?
That's a huge fear, I think, in the FI community. It's a huge concern because there is this temptation to view financial independence as this singular point and this singular goal, like this finish line that we have to get to as quickly as possible. And so there's two sides of it. I'll address like, okay, worst case scenario, what if that happens? Oh no, like what if we have to work an extra 6 months? But the reality is the math, it seems like it would be really linear, but it doesn't usually work that way, especially when you take multiple mini retirements. And it's really easy for us, I think, as humans to imagine what could go wrong because those seem more predictable and more consistent. It's really tough to imagine what could go right because they seem more random and they seem more unlikely, even if they're not random and they're not unlikely. So there's two ways that like it goes right, but it goes right kind of a lot of the time. So on one side is if you switch jobs every 3 to 5 years, let's say you take a mini retirement every 4 years as you're switching jobs. For most people, switching jobs, switching companies is your best opportunity to get a significant increase in pay and to reach your true market value. And so, one example, I had a friend who took a mini retirement, came back, switched companies a year later, and had a 50% increase in pay, which seems dramatic. But the reason he did was that he had been at his previous company for 15 years. So he had been underpaid for a lot of years. Because I'm kind of a numbers geek. So let's say he was earning 100,000 and he came back at 150 and he was there 15 years. Maybe 8 of those years he was under market value. So maybe he missed out on $400,000 of potential income. And let's say his mini retirement even cost him a full 100,000. It didn't, but let's say it did. That's 300,000. So if he had that extra 300,000 that he had invested, by the time he hit 60 or 70, that's $1 million. Not taking mini retirements cost this man $1 million. So his life was worse and he was poorer for it, for not doing this. So if you want to increase your lifetime earning potential, building mini retirements into it is a fantastic option. Like it improves your quality of life. It probably bumps up that lifetime earning potential. Win-win. The other way I see it help a lot is that while many retirements can be like an amazing travel, adventure, vacation vibe, if you are retiring often, if you're doing this over and over and over, not every mini retirement has to be that. A lot of people take mini retirements to do extra certifications, to do extra training, to become more qualified in their job, to up level their personal skills, their soft skills. They go to Toastmasters, they read books, they come back more rested, they come out less burned out, like more creative, more energetic, which helps them professionally. Or like my spouse at the time and I, actually the house that I'm living in right now, we took a month off and we bought this house as a rental. We did the renovations, we got it rented, we did the whole thing. And if you've ever like, I want to buy rentals, but like, I don't have the time, I don't have the bandwidth, like, yeah, neither did we. Like we had like 4 little kids at the time. That's why we had to take a month off. But there again, numbers geek. We paid about 100,000. We've put about another 100,000 into it. We bought this, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago. So we took a month off. Let's say that cost us $4,000. We had a cost of 4,000. The house has now increased in value another 300,000. So that 1 month off, we're now $300,000 richer because of it. So that's something people can do. I've seen people do career pivots during mini retirements. They've started side hustles. They got, a room in their house ready to like be an Airbnb or do a short-term rental. There's a lot of ways that you could use a mini retirement, especially early in your financial career, as a wealth building activity, as a way to increase your lifetime earning potential. I interviewed someone on the podcast that they took a month-long mini retirement, which I always recommend, like, start with a month. If you're overwhelmed, if you're scared, start with a month. It's the perfect like sample size. They loved it. They had an amazing time. By the end of it, they're like, yeah, we're doing this every year. This is our life from now on forever. And so they got back, they decluttered their house. They had kind of a big house. They sectioned off a part of their house. They did a renovation to where it was like a solo apartment because after they decluttered, they didn't need as much space. And then they rent that separate apartment in their house. And that's more than enough to cover the lost income from their month off and the cost of whatever cool adventure they do forever. You can really be strategic about this and use them like as wealth building or career building activities.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, the example of your friend who worked for 15 years could have taken a mini retirement in the middle of that and increased 50%, even 30% or whatever, because he was being underpaid for all of those years. That all of that extra income compounds forever. That is absolutely massive. So I think that's a really interesting way to plan this, right? Like plan just as you're planning out your career and you're thinking about, okay, I want to, maybe in 2 years, 3 years, I want to switch jobs to try to level up. Let me build in 3-6 months off during that time where I'll recharge. And by taking that opportunity to do a mini retirement, I can also find a better job that will pay me more and accelerate my path to FI at the same time. That seems pretty powerful.
There's also this really funny phenomenon, especially in work-centric cultures, where you being unemployed is like unsettling for everyone around you. Yeah. And so in the book, I kind of go through, how do we leverage this to our advantage? How do we let our network know, hey, I'm going to be off for 6 months or a year. I'm doing this amazing adventure. I have all these plans, but I love this industry. I'm so excited to work with you all again. If you happen to hear of anything while I'm gone, please reach out. I'd be happy to have a conversation. And people are shocked at like how hard other people try to pull them back into the workforce. Like, it's just unsettling that they're out there enjoying their life and having fun. And they're like, we have to get them back in the office. And so it's a weird phenomenon. There again, it's hard to imagine the upsides and they feel unpredictable and random, but it doesn't mean they're uncommon. It's very common when you early retire or on a sabbatical and everyone knows you're unemployed for people to be like, hey, so like we have this new position at like our company. Like, would you be interested in this? And oftentimes people get much better jobs, not just better paying, but a better fit, more interesting, better work-life balance because they took time off.
Yeah. I have heard that phenomenon, and I'm like thinking about this as like, I'm like early retired now, but part of me is like, am I early retired forever? I don't know. I mean, I'm being an entrepreneur, But am I closed off for jobs? I mean, at the
Yeah.
moment, yes, I think so.
Yeah.
But and never say never, I think it is definitely, I mean, anyone that wants to go back to a job and is thinking about this as a mini retirement and will go back, like I can see that happening easily.
Yeah. There's also this phenomenon. If you're really burned out, if you've been pushing a long time, and I get why people feel this way, but they're like, I want to leave and I never want to have to go back. Like that seems like the
Yeah.
worst, most painful, torturous. Like I've escaped prison and then you're going to pull me back into prison. And they just have this overwhelming sense of dread. That's burnout.
Yes.
That emotion you're feeling is burnout. And you might feel that for a year. You might feel that for 2 years. You might feel that for 3 years. But the thing is, it goes away. And the sense of dread, it diminishes over time. And the seasons of your life change. Something that I probably, me and my spouse at the time, we probably exited the workforce like kind of on the early side. We were pretty lean fi at the time. But my thought process was, but it's okay if I go back. Like, it's okay if I'm a normal human being. But this moment with my kids, like 1 to 9, this I'm never getting back.
Mm.
I would much rather be home with them and do amazing trips and adventures and do cool things with them. And then when I'm in my 50s and they're all gone and I've had a lifetime of amazing experiences, I might want to work. Like it might be a nice way to add structure and meaning and routine to my life. And so I would encourage people, if you're like, oh my gosh, but like I have to hit full fi because it would be the worst thing in the world to go back to this. You might not always feel that way. And for those of us in the FI community, like we know people who pushed super hard to get to FI and then they early retired and they were like, this is amazing and I love it so much. And then 6 months in, 12 months in, well, Jillian, you don't understand. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like this job that I got offered,
Mm.
it is amazing. It is a dream job. Like I have to go back. And I'm like, okay, well, one, you don't. But
Right. Yeah.
but I see people push really hard for 15 years, enjoy 9 months of early retirement, and then they're just back at a job. They're back earning money. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if you were going to go back, you should have done multiple mini retirements. Like you could have had that
Along the
9 months
way.
off
Yeah.
5 times
Mhm.
because there's something about work that for a lot of people, it adds value to their life in a way that it's hard to see sometimes when we're in it and when it's too much and when it's a bad fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I think that feeling of dread and that burnout is the cause of a lot of this wanting to escape prison forever, right?
Yes.
When reality is like there are a lot of good jobs out there. There are a lot of good companies. There are a lot of
Mhm.
opportunities to add value and develop yourself and develop your skills and build relationships. There are a lot of good things about it.
Yeah.
But when you go too hard for too long,
Yes.
you can lose sight of that. I relate to that so much. I mean, I just told you I took 2 mini retirements because I was burnt out
Yeah.
and couldn't have been more burned out when I ultimately left the company. And as I said, I'm 9 months in and I'm still letting go of that. I'm
Yes.
still finding this new rhythm. And part of me is like, do I want to go and explore some other opportunities? Or I was just thinking about this last night. It's like, hey, I could go and try a job and like, because I want to. And because
Mhm.
if it doesn't work out, I could quit. If I'm horrible at it, they could fire me. And either
Yeah.
way, I'm already financially independent. Like I'm good either way. Like it's like a freedom to do whatever the heck I want.
There's this other phenomenon that happens really frequently. I had someone, I do group coaching for mini retirements, and then they asked me, how often do people go back to the exact same thing? And I was like, so some people do a massive career pivot. Some people do something that is a similar skill set, but a very different job. I would say that's maybe 10%, 20% of the time. 80% of the time, I see people go back to a very similar industry, even if it's not their exact kind of old job, very similar industry, very similar skill set, but they go back in a very different way. Because once you've experienced a mini retirement and you have this confidence, this assurance of like, Here's what I like my life to look like. Here's what I want my work-life balance. Like, here's how I want a vacation. People go back and they just negotiate crazy stuff. And they negotiate with not like, well, maybe, I mean, if it's possible, like, I would really love if we could. They're like, yeah, this is a cool job. I'm going to need a month off every year, though.
Right.
So, like, is that cool? Is that cool with you? Because, like, yeah, I'll do this if I get a month off every year. And they get it. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing if you know exactly what you want because you've done it and you've experienced it and you have that confidence of like, yeah, I'm going to need every Friday off. So as long as that's cool with you all, then like, yeah, this is going to be an amazing fit. And then they come back in such a different way. I was talking to a friend 2 days ago who was like on a 2-year mini retirement. It's so funny. She's like, Jillian, I know that you say this stuff and I know that it's true for other people. I just had 100 reasons why it's not true for me. She's like, but it happened. I got the dream job. Like they approached me, like they courted me. I asked for a month off. I asked for all this work-life balance. And you come back with this confidence of like, you know what? I know what I'm good at. I know my skill set and I know what I don't like and I know what I don't want to do. So as long as the job description is basically just the stuff I want to do and none of that crap I don't like doing, then yeah, we're good. And so you come back in a whole different way and it improves your life long term, not just during that mini retirement.
That's awesome. I love that. Heard of examples of that. And, I mean, I certainly, I've taken multiple breaks. I mean, I've also taken, international rotations. I've done like a couple international work rotations, which I would not describe as mini retirements, but they were awesome and fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I came back and, it was leveled up in terms of confidence and skill set and all these things. So there's a lot of benefits to taking this time. So Jillian, we just talked about how it probably won't impact your path to early retirement, won't slow you down. But what if it does? How do you advise people? How do you work with people when, it really might slow down their path to early retirement? What are the benefits they still might see, even if that's the case?
One of the things that I have people to do, and this is probably similar to you and kind of that visioning, is imagine yourself at that age that you might finally retire and kind of almost like ask that person which one they prefer. Like if you're putting two different scenarios in front of them, because only you can decide if that's worth it, if the quote unquote sacrifice is worth the outcome you get. So let's say it's not even early retirement. Let's say you're like, I think I'm on track to retire at 65, but if I fill my life with mini retirements, what if I don't get to retire until 70? What if it delays me 5 years? Then I would say, okay, when you're 65 and you look back on your life, and because it's delaying you 5 years, like has been significant, but in your 20s, like after college, you traveled with friends throughout Europe and you backpack and you took these 3 months. And then in your late 20s, like when you were with your spouse before you guys had kids, you had this amazing adventure with them and you went to like Mexico and you learned Spanish and like that's when you fell in love and you got to do all these things pre-kids. And then when your kids were little, like you did this massive road trip and you went to all these national parks and like you just remember like you have these pictures of them being like 3 and 5 and it's just such a sweet memory. And then like before they went to junior high, like you took them to Europe and you guys did this cool thing. And in your 40s, like you took a month off and you invested in your health and you ran a marathon. And then in your 50s, like before your parents got too old, you did this cool biking trip through Croatia with them. And now you're 65 and all of your friends are retiring because they're trying to catch up on a lifetime of things they missed out on. And a whole bunch of things they missed out on, they have no more access to. They can't bike through Croatia with their parents. Their kids aren't little. They're not in their 20s with their spouse doing crazy adventures. So they're going to try to catch up, but they have to do it at 65. And you have all of these. But you're like, you know what? I'm not burned out. I have this job I love. I created this better work-life balance, but I'm going to work for another 5 years because like we've done a lot of cool stuff and we've got a lot more time to do more cool stuff. Is that worth it? Would you take the trade-off? Or would you be like, hell no, I don't need any of those memories. I don't care about any of those experiences. Like, I just want to be done right now. And you have to decide that for yourself. And for a lot of people in the early retirement path, it might mean the difference of like 47 or 48.
Yeah.
Like we might be talking an extra year, but if we're talking just 3-month mini retirements that you did 5 of them and you have these 5, these are the highlights of your life. This is the stuff that when you're 80, you look back and you're like, that was amazing. That made life worth living. But you work an extra year, but you're not burned out. You're not overwhelmed. You're not tired. You're not feeling like you missed out on a lifetime adventure, like, because you had all those adventures. Like, is it worth it? And it's only something that that individual can answer. Like, I can't answer it for them. But if you mentally and emotionally put yourself in that spot and kind of honestly ask for the future version of yourself, like, what do you think? If you've had all those experiences, like, are you okay working another year for this? Like, is that a good trade-off? But yes, take some time and really think through that.
Sounds worth it to me. It certainly does. And like you said, it's probably the difference between 47 and 48. It's probably not an extra 5 years. And especially if you're using it strategically to kind of bump up your earning potential along the way, it might even go 48 to 47. But certainly, as you know, Bill Perkins in Die with Zero says, those memory dividends are going to be massively valuable to you. And like you said, you're not going to be able to spend time with your young kids because they won't be young. You're not going to be able to hike, you know, the Inca Trail because you're 65, you're not 45. So you have to do the things when they're available. And I really love how mini retirements can help you do that. So let's talk practicality. Someone's like, all right, I'm convinced I should take a mini retirement. How in the book, Retire Often, how do you advise they do that?
This is the thing I probably love most about the book, in that I think it's easy to see, yeah, I would like a mini retirement. Like, I would love a month off. I would love to go do something cool. So I don't sell people on the idea of mini retirements in the book. Because I've done so much one-on-one coaching, because I've done group coaching, I have heard every fear. I have heard every concern. I have heard every hesitation. I've heard every but how exactly do I do this? And one of the beautiful things about coaching, especially one-on-one coaching, is you tell people, like, here's the steps, here's what you need to do. And then they have to go do it. And then they come back and say, okay, here's what went right. Here's what went wrong. Here's what I'm nervous about. And then you do that over and over and over. And so you kind of figure out, here's the process. Here's what works most of the time for most people. And so I really spend a lot of the book very tactically. How do we do this? What's the process? What are the steps? And so I have it organized in kind of the 4 steps. One of those is employment, because people were like, how do I negotiate this off? How do I find another job? What if everyone thinks I'm a loser because I took a year off and nobody wants to hire me? And the other one's finances. And I usually, in the FI community, it's not usually the money. Like, this doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to start with an $80,000 trip. $5,000, $10,000. Like, that step is probably the easier of all of them. Like, we've got an Excel sheet. We know our budget. Like, we can put aside a couple $100 extra bucks a month. The employment freaks people out. And so I do encourage people, like, if you like your job, if you love your company, if you want to come back and you only need, start with a month, 2 months, 3 months off, I would start by negotiating that off in your company, especially if you've been there more than 18 months, 2 years. Like, you don't even have to be there. I think you said you were there like 11 years or something.
14 years.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be 14 years before you negotiate a little mini retirement.
Got it. And so is there a process as I said, I took advantage of some benefits that existed, and I was eligible because I didn't really go on any grand trip, but I did need a break, and I was here at home with my young son. And so I was able to use the benefits that existed, carer's leave, and then just tack on vacation. But if someone was going to ask, like, what do they say? What do they ask for?
Yeah, and that's a really smart move. Like, look at what benefits already exist in your company, because a lot of them have different programs that you might be eligible for, but very few people use them or take advantage of them. So it's not necessarily widely known. So definitely start there. But if you know this is going to have to be an exception to policy, or if you know this is going to take a number of conversations, I always have people start by thinking through how you're going to frame this story. Like, get ahead of the narrative because you don't want someone else creating the narrative for you of what it means that you're taking a mini retirement. And so when we're building this story, which doesn't have to be long, maybe a paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs, but there's 4 elements that are helpful to include. One, make it a positive story. Especially if you're burned out, it's really easy to come from a really negative vibe of like, I'm just so tired and I'm uninspired. I don't even want to be here. Like, we're not starting with that vibe.
They don't like to hear that.
Yeah, no, we're starting. It has to be positive, even if it's a tough situation, which I can get back to. But the second one, it should be interesting. Do something cool. Like, plan one cool thing. Like, make it something interesting, something compelling. The third one is really important and people don't necessarily think about it. If possible, make it specific. So if you said like, I just want to like recover from burnout, I want to take better care of myself. Taking better care of yourself isn't very specific. And so it's hard for people to emotionally engage in really vague things. Where if you said maybe taking care of yourself means you finish your yoga teacher certification. Maybe it means that you go on a silent meditation for a week. Maybe it means that you're training for a marathon. Maybe it means that you're going to be working with a nutritionist and like figuring out your new diet, like whatever that specific thing it means, try to make it specific. And then the third one, if possible, make it a one-time event, something that is only going to happen once, kind of the example of biking with your parents through Croatia. If the story was, this would be positive, interesting, specific in one time. Hey, my mom and my dad always dreamed of biking through Croatia when they were retired at 60. My dad passed away a few years ago, but my mom's turning 60 this year. She is retiring. I would love to give her this experience. While she's young, while she's healthy enough, we want to take a month. We kind of have the itinerary. I have a week of PTO. I would need 3 more weeks, but this would be kind of a once in a lifetime thing and really an opportunity for me to have this quality time with her if we can make this work. And so it's positive. You're still talking about a hard thing, like your dad died, and that's sad, but it's framed in a really positive way. It's something interesting, biking through Croatia. It's something specific. That's a very specific activity. And it's kind of a one-time thing. Your mom's turning 60. She's retiring. Maybe it's your honeymoon. Maybe it's your 40th birthday. Maybe it's a wedding anniversary. Maybe it's a one-time kind of event. Like, I'm going to hike Mount Kilimanjaro. Most people hike that one time. Yeah. This is not a yearly thing that people do. I learned German when I lived in Germany, and I went to the Passion Play. It happens every 10 years. Most people go once. Like, they're not going every year. It doesn't happen every year, but making it a one time, if possible. Like, if you can get as many of those 4 elements into the story, it makes it really compelling and exciting for other people to kind of get on board with.
Yeah. I mean, as you were saying that example, I was like, how do you say no to that? Like, how do you say no to that? It's got everything. Yeah, I love that. Those are super helpful, those four elements that you want to include in the story. And, with regards to taking advantage of like the available benefits, one thing that people often don't take advantage of is mental health leave. And that my second, as I said, I was very, very burnt out by being attacked by my manager. So I took mental health leave, and you don't need any fancy story for that. You just need to do it and have a medical professional vouch for you, essentially. But if you are burnt out, that is a valid reason enough to do it. And so I can't speak enough about doing that when you need it. I mean, I literally was like getting tested for ADHD. I was so burnt out, I thought I had ADHD. And apparently I don't. Apparently my scores were very good on the executive functioning. She's like, you're just in a toxic work environment and you are burnt out. I was like, would you sign paperwork to that effect? And she's like, yeah. And you should do it. And so that is something that you can do. And depending on your company's benefits, I got paid 100% during that time. And so, that limits you to some degree in terms of what you can do. And you need to actually heal, but that space can make all the difference for you. And so there are a lot of ways that you can go about doing this.
To add to that, this is a question I get a lot whenever I speak about many retirements. Almost always someone in the audience is like, is it okay? Like I'm really burned out. I feel really overwhelmed. Like, would it be okay to use like FMLA? Like, it's almost like, am I a bad, weak person
Mm-hmm.
for needing to take care of myself? And when I think about mental health and burnout, I think about it like the stages of cancer. Like, is it better to start seeking treatment at stage one when the doctor's like, oh, yeah, you have stage one cancer? Like, should you take some time off work and like do your radiation and treatment then? Or should you say, you know what? It's not that bad though. Like, I think I can push through. I'm still showing up at work. I'm still doing my job. Like, I don't think I should need to take time off. I'll just, if it gets to stage five, then if it's like that serious, then we'll wait. Like,
Then we'll deal with
it's
it.
so much harder to cure cancer at stage five than stage one. The process is more difficult, it's less successful, and it's the same with burnout. Like, yeah, you could probably keep showing up at work and keep doing stuff, but it's going to get worse. And it's going to be a more complicated, difficult problem to fix as it gets worse. And burnout, I think especially there's a lot of stigma that like, does that mean I'm lazy or does that mean I'm weak? Honestly, in my professional experience, what I've seen is the people most likely to burn out are high performers. They're people who care too much. They care a lot. It takes a lot of emotional bandwidth. They work too much because they care so much. They tend to have worse boundaries at work. So they take on more work. They take on other people's work. They become overly important or overly necessary in their job. They become so essential that they don't believe they can extract themselves from it. And for employers, I always encourage them like, your high performers, they add a disproportionate amount of value to your team. They are doing 150% compared to everyone else's 100%. And they're more at risk of burnout. So like you have to take care of them. You have to protect them. Like force them to take mini retirement, force them away from their desk. Let things like be hard and bad while they're gone because it does a couple things. It makes everyone else around them do their actual jobs because the high performer is not there to help you out. So it like redistributes the workload. So other people are actually doing their 100%. They're not doing 85 because the high performer is taking on everything. And sometimes they don't want to, but you have to sometimes get out of that pattern. You have to disrupt that pattern so that you can come back in a healthier way. You can come back healed because especially for high performers, like that burnout, it's like high performance athletes. Being at your best matters a lot. You're going to win more of the time. Like if you think about the Olympics in a race, if 500-meter dash, if someone comes back and they're 10% better than everyone else, they don't win 10% more of the time. They win all the races.
They win every time. Yeah.
They win every time. And there are a lot of careers, there are a lot of jobs where that small competitive advantage means you win all the time. Like I used to work in commission sales and it was so funny or sad, whichever. People would go through something difficult in their personal life. They would get divorced or whatever. And when they would come into work, you couldn't tell. Like they seemed like themselves. They seemed normal. When you watched their customer interactions, it seemed fine. They weren't mopey. They weren't depressed. Like they seemed like they were doing a good job. Their sales numbers were half of what they normally were. That tiny difference in their mood, that tiny difference in their energy caused their sales to drop by 50%. And so like, I encourage mini retirements for people who love their work, who love their career, who care about the outcomes, because you're going to come back so much better. And you're just going to win all the time then. You're going to win all the races.
Love it. Now, you got me thinking about what about someone like me who is an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
If you're at a job, you leave the job, like things keep going. Like,
Mhm.
how do you advise like entrepreneurs to think about mini retirements?
Yeah, I put a whole chapter in the book just about self-employed
Nice.
because it's a whole different game. And it's so easy for 9 to 5 employees to be like, well, you're self-employed, you're the boss. Of course you can give yourself time off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is not that is not the
Feels
vibe.
harder. Yeah, it feels harder. Yeah.
It's so much more logistically harder and it's so much more emotionally challenging. It can be easy to say, well, you have a job to come back to. No, you're scared that the thing you built is going to burn to the ground
Right.
while you're gone. Like,
All the work you
you know,
put in, everything you built is just going to, all that
yeah.
work is going to just evaporate, it feels like.
Yes. Where if you leave Google for 3 months, it will still exist.
They
3
got it.
months,
They got
like
it covered.
it will not disappear from the face of the earth. Like it will still be there. And so there's a lot of emotional challenges. I encourage kind of a 4-step process to how to prepare. And the reality is getting your business ready for you to extract yourself from it is a lot of work. Straight up, it is way more work. Getting your 9 to 5 ready for you to leave is like a month, 6 weeks. That's about how long it takes to like cross train people, pass off work, finish up projects, whatever.
Sure.
Not a huge process. To leave a company that you've built, usually 6 to 12 months.
Wow.
Just being honest, depending how messy and how entrenched you are in this business.
100% entrenched.
Yes, but it's a little bit like spring cleaning. You pull everything out of the cupboards and it gets much worse before it gets better. But at the end of it, you come back to a business that's more efficient, that's more streamlined, that you're not the bottleneck, that you have more time and energy to grow the business or for a better work-life balance. Like there's so many benefits. It will make your business better, but you're going to have to put in the logistical and the emotional labor beforehand. And so the 4 steps of that, first one is to simplify. There are things that are unnecessarily complex in our businesses because it's easier to do it the wrong way than to fix it and do it the right way. The fix would take 2 hours. To do it the wrong way takes 7 minutes every week or every month. So you have to go in and simplify things. And then after you simplify as much as you can, you have to go in and automate as much as you can. And there again, that's so much more upfront work than you initially save. To automate something, it might take 8 hours to figure that out when doing it manually is 20 minutes a week.
Yeah.
And so you have to put in that upfront work. But there again, you come back and you've now saved 20 minutes every week. Once you do as much of that as possible, then you have to do the very painful task of documenting. And I'll loop back. There's an emotional issue with automation. And it's not that it's like a perfect no human interaction. It's automating as much as you can. So for example, I have a business client and we were talking about like, how can we simplify? How can we automate more of this? And he was talking about, well, I have to be the one that responds to sales inquiries because they're so unique. They're each so different. It all takes my genius. It all takes my experience. No one else could do this. And I'm like, okay, let's dial this back a little bit, buddy. There's probably a little bit of a formula for how you respond to sales inquiries. They all are unique, but there's probably a little bit of something there. Like you probably acknowledge what they've said, probably offer some solutions, you probably suggest other services, like you probably set up a time for a call. There's a little bit of a formula that you can start to automate so that it's not a perfect automation, but that another human being could potentially do most of this pretty good. But that takes like a little bit of humility of like, maybe it's not just my genius infused in every single thing. So once you do those first 2 steps, you can start to document, what is this process? How do I do this? And start to record all of those steps, which is so annoying. And there again, like we like to think it's pure creativity and genius that moves this all through that no one else could ever replicate. But there's probably some process there that we can document. It's a huge pain in the butt though.
Yeah.
And there's all this ego, like, I don't want other people to be good at what I'm good at. I don't want other people to like be able to do what I do because I want to feel important that I'm the only one that can do what I do. So you have to work through all that. So you
Sure.
document. And then the fourth one, you can start to delegate.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear people say like, well, I tried to hire someone as an assistant, or I tried to hire someone to replace me and they failed. And I think, did you do any of the first three steps?
Yeah.
Or was there no documentation? There was no automation. It was super complex. There was no simplicity. Like, it was pure chaos and genius that ran this whole show. And of course they couldn't help out. Like, they didn't,
Right.
you don't even know what you're doing. How
Yeah.
do they know what you're doing?
Yeah. It's like what we talked about before we started recording, right? Like, I've tried hiring assistants, but I didn't have my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
So of course it was a mess. The business was a mess. Of course the person couldn't fix the mess because they didn't know how it got there.
Yes.
So
if you do those first three steps, like, you can delegate things. And then the last piece of advice I give to entrepreneurs, one, just start with a month. Do not walk away for a year. Risk reward is how I think about this. So start with a short period of time. And then especially your first one, your second one, do not go off grid. Because if you put in 4 hours a week checking on your business, honestly, it's going to reduce your stress, and it's going to make you enjoy that time off, and it's going to make you more present. Because if you're like, I'm going to have zero contact with my business, part of you is going to be wondering, is it burning down? Is it burning down? Is it burning down? Is everything a mess? You just check in an hour every other day, problem solve a couple things that, like, you legitimately the only one that could problem solve. And then it allows you to pivot back to whatever cool adventure you're doing and be more present there. The risk reward of you going off grid, it's just not there. It's not going to make the trip better.
Right.
And there's so much more risk. Yeah.
So Jillian, one of the things you said before we started recording is that taking a mini retirement is really an investment in yourself, your future. I'd love to hear how you think about mini retirements as investments.
Yeah, I think about it like a capital investment in a business. A business invests either a lot of money or energy or resources to build something, anticipating that it's going to increase profitability moving forward. It's going to increase efficiency moving forward. So they make that upfront investment. And it can be the same for ourselves. Like, if we invest the time and energy and money into different parts of our life, we can continue to reap the benefits every year, year after year, for the rest of our lives. And there have been a few of my mini retirements that definitely feel like those capital investments. Like, in my late 20s, I did a month of outpatient therapy, like 6 hours a day for a month. It was super intense. But it massively changed the trajectory of my personal growth. I think about my 20s as before therapy and after therapy. It was such a delineation of who I became as a person. And that trajectory, I wouldn't be anywhere near who I am today or what I've done if I hadn't made that one massive upfront investment then. I'm 42 now. About when I was 39 or 40, I was like, my body maybe requires different things now. It works differently than when I was 22. Like, I can't eat candy for breakfast. That's weird. I think I require vegetables. Like, I think I actually have to take enough steps a day. And I took some time off and I was like, let's figure this out. How do I feed myself in this new body? How do I move? How do I strength train? Like, what kinds of foods do I need? And there again, nights and weekends, it's easy to say, we should be able to do that nights and weekends. Along with like running a business and having 5 kids and doing all of the things all of the time, just add in this massive learning curve on top of all of it, which, cool. If you can do that, that's awesome. It clearly was not working for me. I needed some time and focus to read all the books and to learn all the things and to practice new things. But like, now I know how to live in my body and take care of it, which for me is a huge value. It's very important that like I have a functioning, healthy body that can do all the cool adventures that I want it to do. So that's something that's going to continue to pay off year after year for the rest of my life. And I know a lot of women in their 40s who don't have that time and that bandwidth to be like, oh, things are different now. I need to figure this out again. And then it's just hard. It's hard. Kind of a fun one. Last year, I took a month off to learn tango because I met this really cool guy. He's like in his 70s. He is so awesome. And he would be a little embarrassed if I say this because he's very modest, but he doesn't listen to podcasts. So it's perfect. But he was like amazing. Oftentimes we think when people are in their 70s, there's a decline of health, a decline of mental capacity, a decline of social structure, of friendships, of like engagement. And he was the opposite of all of this. He has so many friends and he's so agile and he's so fit and so engaged and funny and like smart. And I was like, I don't just want to be him when I'm 75. I want to be him now. Like he is
Right.
outpacing me in all of these metrics at this
That's what
moment.
I'm thinking.
And I was like, if I invest a month and $1,000, I'm going to have this hobby that if I think about my 80-year-old self, she would be like, thank you so much. My life is exponentially better. I'm fit. I'm agile. I go to these festivals. I have all these friends. Like I have this great hobby. I get out of the house. Like I'm this like force to be reckoned with in this community. And I just thought, what a no-brainer of an investment. Like, because our physical health and our relational health are two of the best predictors of happiness in our 70s. Like, why wouldn't I set myself up for success there?
I love all those examples. And yeah, what you were saying about taking care of your body. And I'm right there. Like literally this week was like, yeah, I think I have high blood pressure. Like it's not an anomaly when every time you go to the doctor, your blood pressure is high. It's like, maybe I need to eat a little better and actually take care of myself. And I do not know how to do that. I need to like think about how that combines with like the business. And I've been letting my business get in the way of going to the gym. I was like being pretty good about going swimming at the YMCA. And last few weeks, I'm just like, I just gotta get more of these emails out. And like, what do I have to show for that? Nothing. Yeah. Just a more unhealthy body and no more workshops yet. So it's like, no, like there's a foundation. And then on that foundation, you build the house. So you need to really create some of this space in my life to do some of these things. So I love that example of how the investment in taking this time off and being very intentional of how you use it can really set you up kind of a force multiplier for your life.
Absolutely. And one other example that was like kind of sweet and sad. I had a client, super busy entrepreneur, very successful, but like had been busy for years. He takes a year off and he calls me and he's so discouraged. He's like 3 weeks into it. And he's like, Jillian, I feel awful. I actually don't have a very good relationship with my daughter. Like I didn't realize that we're not close. And she was like 6 or 7 at the time. And I'm like, yeah, that's a bummer. Like that's a really painful thing to be like, oh, I thought we had this amazing relationship and we don't. And I was like, in the book I talk about sometimes like mini retirements reveal a problem in our lives, but they can also be the solution. Because I was like, listen, she's 6. You know what? You're going to take a year off. Now's the perfect time to fix this. Now's the time to like read the books and watch the movies and go to the park and do the play dates and go to swim lessons and like do the coloring. Like she's 6. You can bounce back from this. Like you have a year off. Like you're going to be great. Now, if you waited 15 years and like your 21-year-old daughter is like, I don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
It's a tougher problem, like stage 1 cancer, stage 5 cancer. Like that's an investment in that relationship that if you take a year off and invest in that relationship, that's going to pay dividends for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. So Jillian, let's switch gears now into what I call the Mindful Fire Final 4. Are you ready?
I hope so. We'll see. Ready.
So the first question is all about envisioning. And you have this book coming out. You've been working on it for 2 or 3 years. not to mention all the work that you've done individually in coaching others.
Mhm.
I'm curious, what is your vision for this next chapter of your life as a published author and the impact that you want the book to have?
I want the work culture and the work-life balance to be radically different going forward forever. I want this to just be the norm. Everyone takes mini retirements because they're the most logical, sane, normal, healthy thing to do. They're the easiest thing to do. I even wrote at the end of the employment chapter, because it's a whole chapter of like how to negotiate it off, how to find the next job, or it's a whole section of the book, multiple chapters. And at the end, I wrote, I hope in 20 years when we update this book, I'd just remove this entire section. It's just unnecessary because every company has it. Everyone does it. Everyone knows how to talk about it. Like no one has to negotiate it. No one has to explain it to a future employer. It's so commonplace. It's just part of how we live our lives and how we plan our careers now. And in doing the one-on-one work, I realized like I can change this for the individual. The goal for the book is I want to change it for everyone because I can help the bold and the courageous and the creative person do this, but I want to make it so commonplace, so accepted and normal and part of our American working culture that the person who's nervous and scared and never thought they would be able to, they just get one anyways. Like everyone is able to access this. So that's kind of my vision for the book.
It's inspiring. I love it.
Change everything. Change our entire corporate culture.
Our corporate and society. I think that's
for everyone everywhere.
It's bigger than the corporate culture. I think it's society in general, but it's an ambitious goal. I love it. I think it just makes sense. Just give people space in their life to live their life and then come back stronger and better, more engaged. It makes sense for everyone involved. And how about you personally?
I'm split in that I do like this work, that vision is so important to me that I'm willing to keep pushing the rock up the hill because it matters so much. It matters on this societal structure, but it matters on the personal level because almost every day, every week, someone messages me and like, I did it. I took the mini retirement and this incredible thing happened. And I'm different because of it. Mini retirements are life-changing because we change in the process. We come out the other side different. And so life has to be different after. And that's so inspiring to me that it's worth getting on a plane to go speak. It's worth, an hour and a half of my time to talk about it on a podcast. It's worth a media interview. Like it's worth continuing to show up to make this possible for everyone. But the rest of my life, like I'm fine. And like, I really just enjoy living my life. Like I love my friends. I love my family. I love traveling. I love tango. I hang out in my garden and drink tea. It's like, I love going to get massages and going out to coffee and listening to music. And I love living my life. That's 80% of my life. And
Sounds
moving
good.
this cause forward is 20%.
Fantastic. That sounds great. The second question is, what piece of advice would you give to someone early on their path to financial independence?
I would plan this in. I would make this part of the plan. Every 2 years, every 3 years, or every 4 years, I'm going to negotiate this off, or I'm going to switch companies and take a break in between. I'm going to have the go bag. So when something unexpected happens, I can not just financially pivot, but emotionally pivot and lean into these cool ideas that I had. Just make it part of the plan. Lean into every season of your life because we are not stagnant. I think there's this temptation, especially people in their 20s. They think, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to like my VO2 max is going to be awesome. And I'm like, my deadlift's going to be awesome. And I'm going to be great in shape. And I'm never going to like get old. You might have an amazing deadlift and you might have an amazing VO2 max and you will be different every decade of your life. Your preferences will change. What you enjoy will change. Lean in hard to that season. I took a mini retirement in my 20s. I was probably 24. A month-long road trip, DC to Seattle and back in my green Honda Civic. We slept on people's couches. We went to national parks. Like we stayed with friends. We went to Yellowstone and our tent collapsed into snow and then we almost got trampled by bison. Like, it was amazing. It was such a life-changing, life-giving trip. I am never doing that again, ever. I do not sleep on the frozen ground. I do not want to be trampled by bison. I might sleep on someone's couch, but like, I'm not doing it for a month. A real bed has to be there at some point. But I'm so glad I took that trip. Like, it was incredible. And I don't want to do it again because now I'm 42. Like, so lean into each of those seasons and do the things that you might only want to do in that decade of your life.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I think I was sleeping on the street in Pamplona for the running of the bulls. Just like literally like pushing like liquor bottles out of the way so I could lay on the grass. It's like, and then standing in this one spot for like 5 hours to watch 5 seconds of bulls running by. It was a great story. I don't want to do that again. But yeah, you gotta live your life when it's happening. Makes sense. So plan mini retirements into the path to FI. Love that advice. Third question is, what piece of advice would you give to someone getting started with meditation and or mindfulness?
Oh my gosh. So this might be useful if you're the worst at this, because I'm the worst at this. And so here's what I had to do. I have this really unhinged newsletter that I send out, like an email a month, 2 a month. Who knows? When do I send it? I don't know when I send it. It's a surprise to all of us. What do I talk about? Who knows? Just pure randomness that is happening in my life. People seem to like it. I don't know why. But my last one was about my butter churn brain. Like, my brain is a butter churn. It churns and churns and churns and churns. And like, I've just had to kind of accept this about myself and be really intentional about what I put into it so that good things come out. I'm churning on good things. But because my brain is a butter churn, going like hardcore meditation and mindfulness was too far of a bridge. Like, it was too big of a leap and it was just constant failure. So what I started doing, gosh, maybe 5, 6 years ago, was I started getting a massage every week. And while I was getting a massage, I tried to like put mind to body and think about the exact spot that the massage therapist was massaging and just be present in that spot. And so sometimes my mind would wander and try to solve like all of the world's problems. And I would bring it back like, no, she's touching this specific spot on my body. And just having that, not having my mind churning, but having it really present. And it was really helpful for me because massage is such a specific prompt and such like kind of an intense, like I'm getting a really deep tissue massage. So like, she's pushing with her elbow really hard on a specific spot. So it's a little bit easier to focus on that than just like the body scan one. It works much better if like someone's intensely touching that my body. And so I practiced that for an hour every week, week after week after week after week. And it built up that ability to be present and to focus that then I could expand to things that felt more difficult, and I could expand that habit to other areas of my life. But it was really like the massage and being present in my body, super helpful. And the skill set of being able to be very present in your body and focus on one part of your body, super useful. Super useful in certain areas of your life.
Got it. Okay.
And it makes those areas way more enjoyable. So I would highly recommend it. Send your wives to go do this practice because it massively improves other things.
Got it. Okay. And we'll edit that out if you want. I assume you want to edit that out, which is
it's fine. I think that's life-giving advice right there.
Absolutely.
Like if you've got a butter churn brain mind for a woman in your 40s, like this is a game changer.
There you go. Specific areas of your body.
I'm just out here doing the Lord's work.
That's right. That's right. Fantastic. All right. Well, we're going to figure out a way to make that smooth in there. So we'll keep it in.
Leave it unedited and just unhinged. You know,
there you go.
Why not?
And subscribe to the newsletter if you like Unhinged. I'm just kidding. All right. And the final question, Jillian, is how can people connect with you online, follow your work, subscribe to your newsletter, and of course, buy your book, Retire Often?
Yeah, it's all at retireoften.com. We've got
So
free
easy.
worksheets and resources, the podcast, the coaching, all the stuff. On social, I'm at Jillian Johnsrud. So you can find me there. I don't do a ton of social, but I'm trying. I'm trying. But yeah, retireoften.com.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to grabbing a copy of the book, and thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for joining me on today's episode of the Mindful Fire podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I invite you to hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this. This just lets the platforms know you're getting value from the episodes and you want to be here when I release additional content. If you're ready to start your Mindful Fire journey, go to mindfulfire.org/start and download my free envisioning guide. In just 10 minutes, this guide will help you craft a clear and inspiring vision for your life. Again, you can download it for free at mindfulfire.org/start. Thanks again, and I'll catch you next time on the Mindful Fire podcast.